Good morning, everybody. Yes, I agree.
We are back.
Uh, yes, it's a very exciting countdown to a hopefully, very exciting Dev Day today, second and last day of SpeckleCon with a quite interesting and packed schedule, which I must say I'm jealous I will not be able to attend in full because I would love to hack alongside all of you. A quick recap before we dive into today's first session on what's going to happen today. First off, we're going to introduce Speckle Automate. That's us, the Speckle team. Then, after a short break, we're going to have Rob Asher from Giraffe, the CEO of Giraffe, who's going to talk about the 1 hour development application, followed by Chuck Wiesler, who's going to talk about NotePen and how Speckle enables NotePen to provide Grasshopper in the browser. That's quite exciting. And lastly, in the first half of the day, just before the lunch break, we have Wasim Jabi, professor at Cardiff, the one and only, the author of Topologic. And he's going to give us a run through for Topologic as a bridge between Speckle and Pollination Cloud. Now, in the second half of the day, I'm going to hand over to Matteo to run you through
Yeah.
it.
In the second half of the day, we'll have Victor and Daniel from Schmidt Hammer Lassen Architects, who will be giving us a hands-on workshop. So tune in for that. It's a hands-on workshop on developing full-stack web apps on top of Speckle. Then we have Clemens, Matt, Gerg, who will show us how they have integrated Caramba 3D with Speckle to unlock even more workflows. Then we have Andrew from Brainpool AI, who will show us how they're using AI to do material breakdowns and create a carbon pipeline using models coming from Speckle. Then we have a very exciting presentation from Victoria, Igo, Seryosha from the Austrian Institute of Technology. They will show us the results of the second hackathon that was focused entirely on Speckle. And then the other presentation is from Angelos, Oana, James, and Stasia that will show us and explain how they're using Speckle to empower AI-driven simulations at an urban scale at Infrared, who, as we said yesterday, just recently raised a $1 million round. And then the final presentation of the day, we'll see Spiros and Helmut from Zahadid. They will show us an immersive and collaborative platform called Prismark, which uses Speckle behind the scenes for data management. Finally, yours truly, Speckle team will be giving a series of quick deep dives into various topics, such as the viewer, the GraphQL API, our SDKs. We call it the Speckle Open Office.
And the day doesn't end there. There's also two in real life events happening. So if you're around in Frankfurt, Bollinger and Groman are hosting a drinks event. So registration links are somewhere within our conference website page. And as well, if you're in London, you're more than welcome to join us at the Mikkeler Brewpub, that's just off Farringdon, for again, beer sponsored by Speckle this time.
Quick tip,
So,
even if you didn't make it with the Eventbrite, still come, we'll make space for you. So don't worry if you didn't get your ticket.
exactly. And yes, Chris, sorry to fight so daringly for your attention, but I think we're all have been watching this and doing this a bit dry. So it's going to be a well deserved drink for everybody, I'm sure. All right. So I think we're now ready to dive into today's first session, which is centered around making AC better with automation. To a certain extent, this is probably the biggest announcement we've ever made. We're not, as you know, at Speckle, we're not very fond of like laser shows and large public announcements. We usually just do things and post on the forum. But today we're trying to make a bit of a splash. Now, it's a bit of a quick recap from yesterday, just to give you an overview and context of how all this fits together. You all know AEC is a wee bit broken. And Speckle's mission is to make it better, right? Now, we've done that and we're doing that. It's important to know we're not using files. So what we started with we've built an object-based data layer for essentially 3D data and BIM models. So what we do, we essentially decompose all 3D models into their subconstituent atoms and store them in a database and make them available to you, to clients, and to scripts. Now, the first value proposition of Speckle is multiplayer connectivity. We've talked about this at length yesterday, but our aim here is to enable interoperability and meaningful workflows between people. Then there's collaboration. And again, here, the focus is on people. We're giving you a new way to experience and engage with your projects inside Speckle. Now, after this, we've asked ourselves, what if we enable multiplayer collaboration with scripts and machines? As developers, we do want to bring back essentially developer tooling productivity to AEC and the world of 3D. And this is why essentially we're introducing today Automate. Automate is a complete CI/CD solution for Speckle, which aims to bring developer productivity tools to Speckle. And essentially what it does, it's on every model change inside Speckle, you will have workflows running automatically. Now, at the core of Automate lie automations. These are workflows, as I said earlier, crafted from functions that execute on every model change. Now, you can think about this. This means essentially no more manual labor. You can write a script once and automate the boring stuff away. Functions, right? Functions are at the core of Automate. Now, functions are not restricted to just specific simple quality control functions like if this then that or times y. You can actually, on top of Automate, run headless instances of Blender or OpenFOAM or whatever you dream of. Now, lastly, the important part, this is all integrated within one platform. That's Speckle, right? So essentially here, we're opening up a whole new category when it comes to data within AEC that kind of wraps up together into one lovely package, collaboration, connectivity, and automation. And now I'm going to hand over to Ian, who is going to run you through the details of how Automate works. And he won't get too geeky, but if you want him to get geeky, type questions in the background. He knows all about it as he's been the essentially chief mastermind behind the backbone of what Automate does. So I'll drop off stage now, and Ian, so
Okay, thank you, Dim. Hi, everyone. I'm Ian Sproat. I'm a platform engineer here at Speckle, and alongside my colleagues, been working on delivering Automate for much of this year. So like many of my colleagues, and as Matteo explained yesterday, I also have a background in AEC industry. I was a structural engineer and design project manager before moving full-time into technology. So what I'm going to present today is what I wish had been available to me as a structural engineer many years ago. It had been absolutely changing to my career. We heard yesterday that partners such as John Sis, contractors, had reduced time to create reports by 98% thanks to automation. We heard from UN Studio that they'd achieved an 80% reduction in the time to create models, again, thanks to automation. So doesn't that already mean that Speckle enables automation? You know, we heard yesterday from Bollinger & Grohmann, Sis, Atkins, Arup, and many others that Speckle is already part of their automation strategy. We'll see today many examples of amazing applications built by very talented people on top of Speckle's existing API and software development kits. So yes, you'll be correct in saying, yes, Speckle has enabled automation right from the start. It's one of the pillars of Speckle's platform. And using the API and SDKs to build a full stack application remains the best way of creating a visual, interactive experience on top of Speckle. These are the sort of applications where you want users to adjust buttons or sliders and rapidly show new data on a dashboard. What we're announcing today doesn't change this. What we have is something slightly different, a new category of AEC automation platform for a different type of use case. For those of you familiar with software terminology, what we have in Automate is a continuous integration, continuous delivery platform. I say continuous because it runs automatically without waiting for someone to press a button. It runs every time you make a change to data on Speckle. Whenever you publish a new version of your model to Speckle, it will run. So what can you do with Automate? What does continuous integration, continuous delivery mean for architecture, engineering, and instruction? So I'm going to start with continuous integration. This is whenever you get a change to your model, you go through a quality check, you do some other checks to it that would ensure it is correct for sharing, for merging with your partners. So this might be quality insurance checks, it might be code compliance, organizational standards. It might be other kinds of internal integrity checks, clash detection. It might be logical analysis. Do all your rooms have doors? Do all the pipework connect? We saw yesterday Bollinger and Groman's automation for highlighting whether structural columns connected to supporting structure. It might be external integrity checks. Have we achieved the net internal area we said to the client we would? Have we achieved other contract performance KPIs? And it might be other things, city conformance. Have we remained within the building envelope we set by the city planning authority? Continuous delivery is slightly different. This is about generating deliverables. It's about generating reports and drawings, schematic diagrams, graphs and charts, statistical analysis that requires more computationally intensive that might need to be pre-computed that would otherwise have slowed down tools like Power BI or Excel. It might also be renders. As Dim mentioned, we can run Blender headlessly within Automate. So these are ideas of what you can do with Automate. But we're not just continuous integration, continuous delivery. We can also do continuous communication. Automate can talk to any API that you wish to. It could be Office 365. It could be your content management system. It could be your Slack or MS Teams messaging services. It might be emails. You could even connect to your own machine learning or artificial intelligence platform of your choice. And it could connect to engineering analysis applications, particularly those that are more fine-grained and better suited for whatever end use you want. And we'll see a few examples of those later. So these are all possibilities of what can be done with Automate. And the possibilities are endless. I like to think it's limited really only by your imagination. But I also want to talk about the problem we're solving. Why use Automate over other things? With current automation technology, you not only have to code your application, you have to compile it, package it, host it, run it, secure it, maintain it. It's a huge burden. It requires expert knowledge. It's not likely your organization's core competency. It needs dedication, it needs resources, and you might struggle to get them within your organization. There are many generic tools out there that do CI, CD, but they're not AEC specific. They're not built on top of Speckle. So at the moment, it's a big hurdle to make automation more accessible to AEC. So that has been the philosophy of Automate. We want to make automations more accessible. And that's more accessible, first of all, to those who just wish to apply automations to their 3D models, especially those who don't know how to code. Secondly, it might just be making it accessible people who just want to view the results of an automation. They don't want to run it, or they're not creating the the results themselves. And third and finally, but certainly not least, we want to make it more accessible to those who wish to share their expertise. They might be developers, computational designers, but also other experts within your company. So hopefully this animation will load in a second. I want to first address those who just want to automate. So hopefully, as you'll see shortly on the screen, in a few clicks, we'll add an automation to a Speckle model. This automation undertakes a complex analysis of a site within just a few seconds. We'll see a deeper dive of this particular example later this morning. The automation needs to be configured once, though you can edit it later, and will then run automatically every time you publish a new version of your Speckle model. You'll get an updated analysis for every version of your model. It runs quickly, it runs frequently, and you get faster feedback. We see on screen that Automate is integrated with Speckle. We can view the results in our browser. But hold on, perhaps you already had the ability to undertake a similar analysis on your desktop. Perhaps you were able to run a similar sort of analysis in your Grasshopper model. Why use Automate? With Automate, you're no longer constrained to a particular machine or application, somebody's desktop in an office. You can now run the same for your Revit models, your SketchUp models, your ArchiCAD models, IFC files, or any other software that can send data to Speckle. Additionally, the results are saved on Speckle. If the results of an automation are in Speckle, it now means that you can view them in the application of your choice. In this example, we're going to show in greater detail in the demonstrations in a few minutes. We get the automated results without leaving Revit. It doesn't require you to interact with the user interface. It requires constant tuning or adaptation. You configure it once, you can edit it later, and as soon as a new model is published to Speckle, Automate begins to run with its configured values. We can then retrieve the results and interact with them in Revit. So an automation can generate anything really, reports, it can save files alongside your model. An automation may create a report in a PDF format, a Word document, might render a picture, save a JSON blob or any other file format you wish. An automation can generate results as new data, can overlay them with your model. This could be visual coloring, as we've seen, or even new 3D models or BIM data. We'll see a few examples of how powerful this is and more types of results we can visualize in our demonstrations in a few moments. Because those results are now in Speckle, you can comment and collaborate on your results just as you could with any other Speckle data. You can send a link and share your results with anyone, and they can open it in their browser or mobile device. You can embed Speckle's viewer in your website or export the data to Excel, Power BI, or any other software that has a Speckle connector. But these automations cannot exist without functions, without that code to run. A function is what we call the code that runs within the automation. So if we wish architectural, engineering, construction industry become more effective and more efficient with automation, it's imperative that we make it as straightforward and as accessible as possible to create and develop these functions. And to do that requires providing a great developer experience. When this animation loads in a few seconds, hopefully you'll see it only takes a few clicks to create a function. We'll do a deeper dive in the demonstrations in a moment or two. All you need is a Speckle account and a GitHub account. Speckle Automate can run functions written in any language, though we provide some helpful templates to get started for C#, for Python. We take care of creating the GitHub repository, providing that working code to get you started. You can immediately start editing the example function directly in your browser, thanks to GitHub's code spaces, which means you can code your function without installing anything. You can then use Speckle's existing APIs and software development kits to work with your data in Speckle. As Tim mentioned earlier, we can work with almost any programming language and any software. We do provide some helpful templates and software development kits for some languages, but this does not stop you trying anything else. In addition, you can package any existing software into function, provided it can be appropriately licensed. And at the moment, we're restricted on running on Linux, but we hope to remove that restriction in the future. The analysis I showed earlier is an example where we packaged existing off-the-shelf software into a function. In that case, it was OpenFOAM. We'll see how we did that in greater detail later. You can also call any external API, as I mentioned, and this includes your favorite artificial intelligence project, should you wish to add AI. And once you've created that function, it will be displayed in the function library. And from there, it can be used in automations, as we saw earlier. So in line with Speckle's open source approach, the function library is not a closed library. You do not need to wait on Speckle to add new functions. It's open to all of you to create what you need and add that to a collective library. At the moment, we hope to foster a collaborative community where together we build something greater than the sum of parts. So, as mentioned earlier, the philosophy of Automate has been to make automation more accessible to architects, engineers, contractors. We've just seen how accessible it is for those who wish to apply automations to their 3D models, including those who don't know how to code. We've seen how accessible it is to those who wish to view the results of an automation. We've seen how accessible it is to create a function. But I like to think automation is not just for the boring tasks, because it's now so easy to add an automation to your data. We hope it's going to unlock new workflows you couldn't do or weren't doing before, that were maybe too impractical, too costly. And we hope that barrier is removed. We hope it's going to allow you to offer your customers greater value or expanded services. And we hope it offers you increased productivity, increased efficiency, quicker and more frequent feedback. And most importantly, we're all incredibly excited to see where you're going to automate. So if you want to be the first to use Automate, please sign up to our waiting list for access to the beta. I hope one of my colleagues is sharing the link in the chat. And if you are lucky enough to join the beta, we really want to hear your feedback. We want to know what you're doing and what you're building with it. And as with Speckle, Automate is going to be a journey of listening to your feedback and continuous improvement. We're going to keep moving on from this point.